Bowie Ground Arm Week running by my fellow Transformer fans, and welcome to Transformers Prime Season 1 review. This week I will be reviewing Transformers Prime Season 1, a TV show made and distributed by The Hub. Season 1 consists of 26 23-minute episodes covering the adventures of Team Prime against the Decepticon forces. We start with the story setup. In the far reaches of space lies Cybertron, whose inhabitants eventually split into two factions, Autobots, led by the heroic Optimus Prime, and Decepticons, led by the maniacal Megatron. For eons they have warred across the planet until Cybertron could no longer sustain life. The Autobots evacuated and dispersed across the universe. At this point, Megatron leaves his army under the command of Starscream and heads off into the void to a regions unknown. So to start off, we'll introduce the characters, starting with the Autobots, Team Prime. And we begin with Optimus Prime, voiced by Peter Cullen. Strong, courageous, compassionate, charismatic. These characteristics, and more, make up the bot that is Optimus Prime. He's all the things we love about the G1 version, but with more aloofness and pomp. Ratchet, voiced by Jeffrey Combs. Venerable, passionate, opinionated, with a bad bedside manner, Ratchet's the team's medic, and he doesn't have any time for humans, especially children. Bulkhead, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Like the name suggests, Bulkhead is a powerhouse with a big heart. He's not stupid, but he's no scientist either. A former wrecker, a Black Ops commando team that bent the rules to do the impossible. RC, voiced by Sumile Montano. A determined, resolute and skilled veteran, RC has been hurt in the past due to the horrors of war. She's lost so many friends and teammates over the countless years, which makes her reluctant to form friendships. Bumblebee, voiced by Nobody. Bumblebee is the rookie of Team Prime. He's emotive, brave and eager to learn. He's skilled in combat, but lacks the years of experience that the other members have. He's also scarred from being tortured by Megatron during the war. Wheeljack, voiced by James Horan. Jackie, to his friends, is a lone gunman. He was in the same unit as Bulkhead, the Wreckers. He's charismatic, cool and deadly. He hates authority, the reason why he's a lone gunman. Loyal to his friends, lethal to his enemies, Jackie is a bot not to be trifled. Cliffjumper, voiced by Dwayne Johnson. This bot lives up to his name, as he displays the subtlety of a high explosive grenade. He's cocksure, but he can back it up with action. Finally we come to the humans. Jack Darby, voiced by Josh Keaton. The responsible 16-year-old everyman. Raphael Escovel, voiced by Andy Pessoa. Chip, without a wheelchair. Miko Nakadai, voiced by Tanya Gunardi, the actual realistic kid. She's a pain, but aren't they all? Special Agent William Fowler, voiced by Ernie Hudson, the grizzled former Ranger, now G-Man, who liaises with Team Prime for the US government. June Darby, voiced by Marky Post. Jack's mum, she's a nurse and a single parent. Silas, voiced by Clancy Brown, the leader of MEC, a secret terrorist organization in search for the best technology the planet or elsewhere has to offer. And now to the Decepticons. Megatron, voiced by Frank Welker. Intelligent, charismatic, and merciless. Megatron is a force of nature. He despises weakness, including within his army. Not even the Chaos Bringer Unicron can bring Megatron to his heel. No one commands Megatron. Starscream, voiced by Steve Bloom. Megatron's lieutenant, Starscream, may be a coward by nature, but he's ruthless, crafty and deadly in the air. He is an angel of death in jet mode and just as deadly in bot mode if your back is to him. Soundwave, voiced by nobody. Megatron's secret right-hand bot, Soundwave was there from the very beginning, when Megatron rose from the pits of Kaon and began gaining followers. A bot of very few words, Soundwave is the only being in the universe that has the ear of Megatron. Knockout, voiced Darren Norris. Stylish, dangerous and an opportunist, Knockout will do anything to remain on top of the food chain. He's smart enough to stay on the right side of Megatron, and he hates blemishes on his finish. Breakdown, voiced by Adam Baldwin. Knockout's colossal partner, Breakdown, loves his work as the Muscle. He loves a good scrap. He's also honourable and is always ready for a rematch with his nemesis, Bulkhead. Arachnid, voiced by Gina Torres. Masochistic, psychopathic and a sociopath, Arachnid is a serial killer and an exterminator. She's responsible for the extinction of dozens of alien species. She loves her work, and since being on Earth, she's enjoying it more so, seeing as her old friend RC is here too. We start the story with IDW's Transformers Prime prequels. This 4-part story starts with Cliffjumper attacking a Decepticon base of operations. He eventually meets up with RC, and she reluctantly teams up with him to thwart one of Starscream's plans. They sabotage the space bridge on Cybertron, ultimately destroying it, but not before jumping through it themselves, where they find themselves on Earth and finally meet up with Team Prime, who have been there for some time. We begin Transformers Prime Season 1 with a 5-part pilot episode, Darkness Rising. Within 5 minutes of the show starting, Starscream kills Cliffjumper in a horrific manner. Right from the get-go, you get the feeling that nobody is safe in this show when the leading character so far has been killed. This is an important scene, as it has repercussions that are picked up on later in the series. In this pilot, we're introduced to most of the cast, with Megatron returning from Deep Space Mission with Dark Energon, the blood of Unicorn, who uses it on Cliffjumper's body to reanimate him. Dark Energon is the theme for this season, as soon as Megatron drives a silver of Dark Energon into his own chest. As it turns out, Megatron's plan is to launch the Dark Energon through the space bridge to land on the surface of Cybertron, to reanimate all the dead there and create an army to invade Earth. Cut to scenes of a rescue attempt to free Fowler from the Decepticon ship, Prime and Ratchet fighting back to back against a swarm of zombies under the direct control of Megatron, and Soundwave, after having his photo taken by Miko, which is something she likes to do throughout the series, takes a photograph of the 3 children, which I thought was cool. We find ourselves at a pinnacle moment towards the end of the pilot, where Team Prime destroying the space bridge along, seemingly, with Megatron. We continue Transformers Prime Season 1 with Masters and Students. Starscream finds and unleashes Skyquake, only for him to be killed by Bumblebee. This is visited again in Season 2. Starscream finds Megatron, then betrays him by ripping out the Dark Energon out of his body. Scrap Heat. Scraplets are introduced and are unleashed in the Autobot base, and Ratchet learns that there's more to the humans than he originally thought. Conjob. Wheeljack is introduced in this episode. Enough said. Convoy. This episode introduces Meg. Once they learn of the Cybertronians' existence, they turn their attention to stealing their technology. Deus Ex Machina. This episode we meet Knockout and Breakdown, and the introduction of ancient artifacts. Speed Metal. This is basically a Knockout episode. Predatory. Beware, people of Earth, Arachnid is here. This creepy alien-style story delves into RC's past, and we find out why she doesn't like to make partners. In Sick Mind, we learn that Megatron is directly responsible for a lot of biological weapons being made, such as cosmic rust. Bumblebee enters Megatron's mind to find a cure, only for Megatron to escape into Bumblebee's mind. In the next episode, Out of His Head, Megatron takes control of Bumblebee in an effort to bring his body back to life. Ratchet and Raph meet a common ground, and Megatron returns and teaches Starscream a lesson he won't forget. Shadow Zone. Starscream plays up and makes a mess of things. And oh yeah, Zombie Skyquake. Operation Breakdown. Breakdown is captured by Mech. Only Bulkhead can save him. But their efforts come to naught as Mech already has learned a lot about Cybertronian biology. In Crisscross, Arachnid teams up with Mech and kidnaps June Darby as a hostage, and will only give her up if RC surrenders herself to Mech. June finds out about Jack's involvement in the war on Cybertron, and Mech learns more about Cybertronian biology. In Metal Attraction, we have Breakdown and Arachnid facing off against RC and Bulkhead, and another ancient artifact in the form of a polarity gauntlet. Rock Bottom. In this episode, Megatron confronts Starscream of his treachery. And it's this episode that I realised that Miko is a very realistic kid. She's impulsive and really quite desperate in her actions. The look, feel and animation in this episode is really quite breathtaking. Partners. This is another great episode for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Starscream realises his place in the Decepticon army, so he decides at the end of the episode to go solo. RC visits Cliff's grave, and showing again that death is an important part to this story, and it does have a lasting effect on the characters. TMI. Bulkhead gets smart via a knowledge device, and there's a nice wink to animating in this as Bulkhead paints this episode. Stronger, faster. Due to the partial knowledge that Bulkhead wrote down last episode, Ratchet conjures up Synth N, a synthesized energon. Suffice to say, Ratchet gets roided up and goes badass in this episode. It's basically a metaphor for steroids and drugs. But there's some great moments in this one. The scene where the camera follows Team Prime through the ground bridge straight into battle is amazing. One shall fall. In this episode, we learn of a prophecy about the coming of Unicron. June intervenes to save Raph from being killed by Dark Energon. And finally, an awesome face-off between Prime and Megatron, with Megatron being the victor, thanks to Earth. Finally, we come to the season finale of Transformers Prime Season 1 with One Shall Rise. We learn of Unicron, the Chaos Bringer, an ancient nemesis of the Cybertronians god Primus. For eons they waged war with each other until Primus created the 13, the first Primes, and they engaged Unicron and banished him into deep space. For millennia, Unicron slumbered, whilst gravity forces formed a planet crust around him to form the Earth. Meanwhile, Megatron attends an audience with Unicron, only to find out that Unicron doesn't see Megatron as a partner, but rather an ant that is wasting his time. Megatron not getting the deal he wanted. Meanwhile, Prime faces Unicron, and, with Team Prime, battles him, or rather his avatars, until Megatron turns up to assist. They join forces to defeat Unicron by space bridging deep within the Earth's core, and using the Matrix to, in effect, shut down Unicron. Before Team Prime and Megatron leave, Prime gives Jack the key to the ground bridge. Later we learn that that's not the ground bridge, but the key to Vector Sigma. G1 and Beast Wars fans will know straight away that this is very important. We also learn of Orion Pax, and how he and his friend Megatronus were close friends until Megatron stood before the council and shows his true colours. But Orion had a different idea. He moved the council with his words, and Megatron left to build an army to start with. Later we learn how Orion Pax journeys to the core of Cybertron, where we find Primus lying dormant since he withdrew there eons ago. Here, Orion Pax was given the Matrix of Leadership, and he became Optimus Prime. We then return to Team Prime and Megatron fighting against the antibodies of Unicron, where there's an awesome slow-mo shot of Megatron and Prime fighting back to back. And at the same time, we have Arachnid, who Megatron left in command when he left, tries to order the ship away from the Earth to Regulon 4, but Soundwave says no, and here we witness one of the most coolest moments in the show, as we see Megatron's silent right-hand bot show his loyalties for the Lord of the Decepticons, with Knockout finally saying, "Watch out for the quiet ones." Finally we come to the end, where Prime and Megatron face Unicron in the centre of the Earth, where Megatron struggles with Unicron for possession of his body, but it's too late, as Optimus unleashes the power of the Matrix, and Unicron lies dormant once again. But where Optimus Prime once stood, now stands Orion Pax, with no memory of his friend Megatronus ever turning against him. They retreat back to the Decepticon ship, where Orion is greeted by his fellow Decepticons. An excellent show, filled with the right amount of drama, action, and comical moments. You may not like the look of the humans, but everything else is flawless, and this reviewer is happy that they spent most of their budget on the bots and have crappy looking humans. A great cast. I just wish Peter Cullen did more of a G1 version of Optimus Prime. He gives too many speeches, but the rest of the cast picks up the slack. The bots look great, and the story works with the uplift. Written and conducted by Brian Tyler, this orchestral soundtrack exudes all the gravitas that the show thoroughly deserves. Whether you hate it or love it, this reviewer thinks Transformers Prime Season 1 is worthy for the Transformers universe and to be called Prime.